as 4 de-escalation zones in Syria came into force at midnight local time. Here on the channel, we look at the differences between the Russian and American proposals for no-fly zones in the country. Through the firewalls, leaked documents show the UK government has been planning to force WhatsApp and other communication services to unlock their security encryption. Facing a mountainous debt and a dwindling population, Puerto Rico declares the biggest bankruptcy in the history of the United States. Just turning midday on Saturday here in Moscow. Thanks for joining us on RT International. The Syrian capital's enjoyed a rare night of peace as a plan for safe zones in the country, drawn up by Russia, Turkey and Iran, came into force at midnight Damascus time. The plan includes establishing no-fly zones in 4 areas of de-escalation. But as RT's Murad Gazdiev now looks into how the definition of what a no-fly zone is, it sometimes seems to depend on who's actually proposing it.
A no-fly zone can mean very different things. A Russian one, for example, actually means no fly. No one gets to fly. No, not even just a little bit.
The work of combat aircraft in de-escalation zones is not expected at all, with or without notification. The issue is closed.
Details. The Russians want 4 safe zones in Syria, places over which no one flies, no one bombs, and no one surveils. 4 areas where people can go and feel as safe as possible in Syria. Needless to say, the idea isn't new.
Some variation of a no-fly zone or a safe zone.
And I advocate today a no-fly zone and safe zones.
We must move forward to try to immediately ground all aircraft flying in those key areas.
They didn't actually mean what you thought they meant. What all those fellas want is an area where they, and only they, can fly.
I would not agree that coalition aircraft ought to be grounded. I do agree that Syrian regime aircraft and Russian aircraft should be grounded.
Right out of the horse's mouth. Notice Russian and Syrian jets, not American, not British. Truly, a we fly, you don't zone. It's worked wonders before. Yugoslavia, Iraq, Libya, not what you call success stories. You think, how is it that these no-fly zones always end with NATO or the United States bombing the people they don't like? Well, they've got that figured out.
Military experts across the world know that a no-fly zone requires certain actions taken to protect the planes and the pilots, including bombing targets like the Libyan defense systems.
It's ingenious. If you send jets into a no-fly zone and someone tries to shoot them down, then you've got to defend yourself by annihilating everything from the air. Not this time. If the Russians get their way, in Syria, no-fly will mean no fly.
The founder of the European Centre for the Study of Extremism, Makram Kurimakul, believes this deal offers new hope for the Syrian peace process.
There was a reluctance amongst both the so-called moderate opposition armed groups as well as the mercenaries and the terrorist groups not to disentangle. Both sides worked sort of in cahoots and did not agree to disentangle, and this is why we had to wait for around 7-8 months in order to achieve this very important agreement now. I believe that these 4 areas, the efforts to de-escalate this armed conflict in these 4 areas does have actually a very strong chance in succeeding.
Meanwhile, U.S. officials have been sending mixed messages about the no-fly zones. Caleb Mopan has more details from Washington.
Well, there's been a lot of vagueness from the Pentagon when it comes to the New Deal. At this point, we've heard from U.S. Central Command, and they've said that the U.S. fight against ISIL will not be affected by the agreement.
The coalition will continue to target ISIS wherever they operate to ensure they have no sanctuary.
Now, they made clear that the United States government was not party to the agreement that was reached. They're essentially saying, as you just heard, we're going to target ISIL wherever ISIL may be. Now, what remains to be seen is whether or not ISIL will accidentally be discovered in the 4 no-fly zones and zones of de-escalation. We did contact Central Command trying to get a clarification on the situation, and they were not eager to give us a response to our inquiry. They simply urged us to talk to the U.S. State Department. Now, we've already heard from the U.S. State Department on the matter. They've also been vague about what the United States response will be. The U.S. State Department has come forward and said that they welcome efforts to de-escalate violence in Syria. However, they are not fans of Iran as the guarantor of the deal. So at this moment, it's really unclear. We're just hearing a lot of vagueness from U.S. officials. We really don't know how they're going to respond to the deal, other than saying they intend to keep fighting ISIL.
We spoke to former Pentagon official Michael Maloof about the mixed signals the U.S. is sending regarding the no-fly zones.
They don't know what they want to do yet. There's so many conflicts. There's, first of all, Iran is involved. The Turks are involved. If it means that the United States can't move aircraft in to give air support to the Kurds, that's a problem for them. Even to U.S. special forces on the ground, wherever they may call in for air support. So it's probably still a policy in the formulation stage at the State Department, somewhere in the State Department, and they really haven't been able to figure it out yet. I think that the U.S. will go ahead and concentrate on ISIS further east and leave the policing and the monitoring of the de-escalation zones where you have opposition members, but opposition members who have put down their arms and have agreed to accept government resources, and have that policed by Russia and the Syrian government, and probably to a lesser extent by the Iranians.
Disturbing video has emerged from the U.S. of a teenage student being assaulted by a police officer with the help of the high school principal. The incident did occur 2 years ago when Ahmad Williams was 15.
Punch you in your face. Man to man, bro. I don't give if you're 14 years old or not. I will punch you in your face. And then we get out of court, it's your word versus mine. Mine wins every time.
All 4 individuals are black. All 4 individuals go to the same school. And all 4 individuals, involve the same parties, being Stephen Charles and the principal, Kevin Murray.
The victim's lawyer there has now gone as far as to call out the officer, the principal, and the school district superintendent online. He offered to fight them personally in a boxing match, saying he was fed up watching them assault children. He also told us what prompted him to take such a step.
When I put that on Facebook, I was speaking, from the place of a parent, and I was frustrated that, these officials, these administrators, these people that have been entrusted to care for our children, have done so for many years with impunity. Was that necessarily, something that was the right thing to do? Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's debatable. But I was frustrated, and I was hurt, and I was angered. I am an attorney, but I'm also human. I don't believe that any adult, any caregiver, the exception of them protecting themselves, have the right to assault our kids in the manner that these kids were assaulted.
Well, as some feel the lawyer's anger is justified, given the number of incidents that have come to light showing officers using excessive force in U.S. schools.
Get the out of here.